Hello, Unity Church of El Cajon, my home, my family. My name is Reverend Beci and I was ordained as a Union minister not that long ago, coming up on a year now, but I've been with the Unity movement since 1999, and I love unity, that's for sure. Before I get started here, I would like to pray us in. We just take a moment and remember we're here on this sacred day, Palm Sunday. And as we hear these words, we know that they are from the Spirit of God, the Spirit of love. We know that I myself and the listeners will hear exactly what they want to hear and know exactly what they need to hear, because God is with us always. Amen. Mint. You know, when Billy Kay asked me to speak on Palm Sunday, she gave me the date and I didn't think about it. And then after I looked it up, I went, wait, that's a really kind of big day. You know, there are other big days, but it kind of intimidated me a little bit because we see things differently than the crucifixion on the cross. So I want to talk to you today about being in your God mind and allowing yourself to be present and to choose which path you want to take. So Palm Sunday is about Jerusalem. There's a big thing going on here, right? But everybody focuses on Jesus coming in and the palms and everything. But did you know, maybe some of you don't, there was another parade going on the other side of town. Pontius Pilate had showed up. Now, it was not unexpected because every year at the time of Passover, he comes in with his parade of soldiers and horses and whatever they bring with them, coming through the doors with this power and authoritarianism, everything about this is who we are, this is what, they come actually to make sure that the town is behaving themselves during Passover. That's kind of what they're doing. He didn't actually show up because Jesus was showing up on the other side. He came because he wanted to keep the ruckus down. That's what the Roman emperor wanted, was the ruckus to stay down so that they can continue being in authority and nobody else would get a chance to speak for themselves or talk for themselves. He was actually there for a show of strength and to make sure that no outbursts happen, no insurgency or violence, rebellion against the Roman rule. They were the bosses after all, right? So Jesus rides on the other side over here, and he's quiet, whereas Pontius Pilate is coming in. The drums are beating, the sounding horn, whatever, all this marching, all these people on the horses clapping as they went along. It's strength and it's authoritarianism. It's a one way of life, right? To follow someone else's lead, to let them lead us where we need to be, to not have to answer the questions ourselves, just follow their rules, you know, just follow along with what they said. And he brought with that a lot of confidence. It looked like he was very confident in what he was doing, and so people were like, oh, well, he must be the person that I need to follow. And this whole week after this is just one big test of this authority versus being humble. So he was leading a regiment of people that he trusted the most, and he gathered them all, and he's like, we're going to go in here and make sure everything's all settled. And like I said, Jesus, on the other hand, was riding a donkey. So he had traveled a long time. You know, his work had happened for more than 3 years, and he was really trying to help people understand. And if you think about it, I don't want to think about it really deep because it kind of makes me cry. He knew what was ahead of him. It was no surprise. He knew what he was headed into. So he sent off some of his disciples. He said, get me a young colt donkey and bring him in, and I will ride him into town. So they show up with him. They throw cloaks over him. Jesus gets up on the donkey, much like when Mary came into town on a donkey, right? His very mother. And they bring him into town. Oh my goodness, finally the King of Kings were there. The crowd was so happy. They're like, oh yeah, he arrives there, and the crowd just welcome him. And they say, of course, Hosanna to the Son of David. Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Hosanna in the highest. Do we know what Hosanna means? I really didn't talk very deeply until I looked it up. So, according to Charles Fillmore, because unity is metaphysical, Charles Fillmore has his own definition of it, but according to the dictionary, it's Greek, and it comes from save now, deliver now, succor now, all these nows, do this now. And according to the metaphysical interpretation of this, this is what it means. I think it really is interesting. Worshipful prayer offered by the inner thoughts that are awakening spirituality. Prayer for the preservation and safe growth of the Christ spirit that is being formed and brought to birth in the soul and in the body of the individual. That's what Hosanna really meant. Our interpretation through unity. It was about transformation. It was about moving forward and changing. Jesus knew things were going to change. Now the people that were waiting there screaming and yelling Hosanna for him, they thought this king was going to come and save them all. They had set up their own expectations of what was going to happen when this king showed up. Probably even ignorant of Pilate on the other side of town coming in. So they were hoping that this King of Kings that they had longed for so long was going to save them. Which way was he going to save them, though, right? They kind of set themselves up with expectations. Well, I think he's going to do this. I think he's going to do that. And in reality, each one of us have our own expectations of what's going on, right? We can see this authoritarian over here. Some people see that as just leadership. Some people see that as they're the boss, they're going to give the rules. We see this playing out right now in all of our world in many ways. Jesus' leadership was quiet and humble. He rode the donkey into town. He let everybody else, praise him, celebrate him, and he was glad to be there. But what were they expecting from him? And we find out later in the week, their expectations of him really didn't meet what he was coming there to do. So what would you expect from a long time waiting for a king to show up to save you? And if I put myself in that position, and that's what I did over the week, was thinking, I could have all kinds of wild thoughts because we had been our community had been so oppressed for so long. How does this play out in my life? I would have questions because I have expectations. And if anybody's in 12-step and they know this, expectations are premeditated resentments. You're just setting yourself up for resenting what someone else can be instead of letting them be who they are. So the people were celebrating him, and in our humanness, of course, we had our expectations. But have you ever heard of the fish story? The guys go fishing and the guys come home and they're like, oh, I caught a fish this big. That's what they said on the first day. So then they go to their friends, see other friends the next day, and they're like, my fish was this big. You should have seen it. And then on the third day, they go to a different friend. They're like, oh my gosh, I could barely pick this fish up. It was so big. Anywhere along that line, these people were holding on to the hope. In what way, individually, would their Savior, their King of Kings, come to help them? So I see this as all this pomp and stance, all this ceremony surrounding this other person, this authoritarian coming in, and that could be one of our personalities. This is the part of me. I like to be there when I'm at home, and I have a house full of teenagers, as you guys know. I'm like, hey, you need to do this and you need to do that, instead of being humble and saying, will you do this with me? Because that's what Jesus was here to do. He was here to show us and transform us into who we are meant to be. This whole thing was just for that, to bring us to our own awareness that we are the Christ within, and that we have the right to show our own celebrations, and we also have our own flash and dance and everything that's going on, right? But this looks like some people really have to hold on to someone else is going to fix it for me. Someone else is going to make it right. And with Unity, one of the things I've learned in all my almost 30 years here at Unity is that I can let somebody else lead me, but God's going to figure out what needs to happen, and he's going to put me somewhere else anyway. You know, he's going to put me, maybe that was a part of my lesson, was to go where this person, I thought this person. Have you ever been caught up in something and go, oh, this is the most wonderful thing, or this is read a book. This is what I needed to hear. This is how I'll change my life. And then realize, wait a minute. Does anybody remember, what was it called? Amway? Right? I know we're aging ourselves here, but that was the thing. You were going to make all kinds of money because they had this rule that you did it this way. And some people did make money. And then it came to a head that what it really was a scheme to take money so that the powerful would stay in power. Sound familiar? And those underneath were just like following along. I liken that to like COVID. So the government said stay inside for 2 weeks. What do? We followed right along. Now, it saved a lot of people. True that, right? It saved people. But at the same time, then they said 4 weeks. Then they said 6 weeks. And then what happened after that changed our whole world. But what did we do with that change? Did we go outside and say, oh, I have to follow you because you're on the bandwagon, I got to jump on here with you because you're going to save me? Or did it come in and quietly say, you have the power within you. You have what you need, and I'm here to prove that to you. So power doesn't come from domination or oppression. It flows from love and service. Peace is not won with a sword. Peace is won with conscious awareness of our unity with Spirit. We can live in our victory from here when we're aware of our spirit and our connection, because that's who we are. That's who Spirit is asking us to be, to step into, is this transformation of light and energy in the world that just loves everybody else and is a service and is humble and kind. Even when we know the fate may be something we're not looking forward to, we still stay in our spirit. I don't know about any of you, but I get challenged. I get challenged every day in the car. You know, the people pull in front of me, or the person in front of me is doing 10 miles an hour less than the speed limit. Can you imagine? Can you at least go the speed limit? You know, and I find myself going, wait a minute, that's not very Christ-like, especially when my license plate says you are loved. I remind myself every time I get in that car, I'm like, no, I'm a representation of you are loved in this world. And that's who I want to be. I want to be riding that donkey and knowing that God is in charge of my fate. So what we see here was choices, right? And there's all different kinds of choices. I'm going to talk about the extremes. We had 2 arrivals, we had 2 entrances, and we had 2 processions. And probably neither of the people at either knew the other one was going on. That's how I look at it when I read it, right? So there were opposing, and it's easy to find ourselves caught up in this one. I have to say, the first 36 years of my life, I probably stayed there most of my life because I didn't know any better. I didn't have any loving leadership as a child. I didn't know that I was Christ-like. In fact, for many years, I was wondering where the heck God was. God certainly wasn't there for me. At least I thought, right? Because I see this authoritarian, I see this is what I have to do, this is what I'm told to do, and I'm thinking, well, I'm just going to have to follow along with that. This is all I get in my life. I had no idea that I had this much power and this much light inside of myself until I found Unity. And the first 6 months of Unity, I cried the whole time because I had finally found my people. I had finally found people that understood who I was, because I always felt different. Anybody here ever felt different in the world when you're out there? Like, these people are not like me. What's going on here? I don't feel like that inside a Unity church. And I've gone to all kinds of different Unity churches. And I've never once felt like I didn't belong in a Unity church and that they didn't see my light and my uniqueness for who I am, because that's what we are. We are individual expressions of God. So it's easy to get caught up in that enthusiasm, to join in, get sucked in, and that makes it easy to forget what else is going on around there. When Jesus is humble and in love, and he rides his donkey in, and it's quiet. This is the whisper, right? It begins the clanging and the banging over here in the bandwagon, and this is what we got to do. This here is the whisper of hope, the whisper of love, the whisper of, hey, you are who you are, and I made you that way. So start acting like it, at least for me, right? So which would you choose to live under? Tyranny or love and service? Oppression or kindness and beauty? And how do you express that into the world so other people understand they have a choice? Because I don't know if you guys know, but outside these walls, there's a lot of people that don't know they're Christ-like. They have no idea what, if you walked up to them, they'd think you were crazy. What are you talking to, yourself or something? Because what is a Christ-like? They don't understand the power they have within them is the same power given to us by Jesus Christ, our way shower. So Charles Fillmore has a lot to say about this, and I have to read part of it. So he says, Palm Sunday in Jerusalem, the holy city, symbolizes within us the habitation of peace, the possession of peace, vision of peace, abode of prosperity within us. Goes on to say that in man, Jerusalem is abiding consciousness of spiritual peace. So that's in us, which is the result of a continuous realizations of spiritual power tempered with spiritual pose and confidence. So it is tempered, the spiritual power is tempered with spiritual poise and confidence. So we don't just go around throwing it on people. Oh, I know what you need. Jesus didn't do that. He came in quietly, and he let them celebrate him along the way. So Jerusalem symbolizes the great nerve center just at the back of the heart, Charles says. That's our chakra, right? Our heart chakra. That's where our love is. That's where the light is put inside here. And he says that this point spreads the love and the light to the rest of your body. This is what keeps you going, and we know even medically that that's the truth. So Jesus symbolizes our I am identity. I love I am affirmations. In fact, this necklace is just full of little, you can't read it, but little I am affirmations, because I am what God made me to be, and I am a part of him, her, them. So this unfoldment that happens is part of this Palm Sunday and the week behind it. It's the transformation from being inside and not being aware or following someone else's lead to what is really going on here. And I feel like there's so much of our world right now that is caught in this. They don't know which to choose. And it says, he goes on to say that Jerusalem means our taking the last step in unfoldment, preparatory to the final step. When the personality is entering entirely crucified, and the Christ is victorious. So we have to let go of our personality. There's a lot of books about that. I think totally talks about ego means edging God out. So if we can let go of that and be who we're supposed to be here, are the light that we are here. He continues by saying, hold on. Jesus entering into Jerusalem means the fulfillment of the time when the spiritual I am awakens us, takes control, and lifts all of our animal forces up to the spiritual plane of mastery, purity, and peace. So the resurrection is about that, moving into who we are, letting go of. We talk about this a lot, even with the release candle. Let's let go of this. This really isn't who we are. We are the Christ light. When the I am takes charge of the body, a new order of things is inaugurated. The vitality is no longer wasted. We keep our energy because we're not spinning it on trying to keep up and trying to understand what's going on over here. We're actually in our now, in our hope, in our victory. As we know, we go through this week, the victory is here by opening up who we are. So through high and pure ideas, the whole consciousness is raised to a higher standard during this transformation. He goes on to say the hosannas of the rejoicing multitude and the spreading of their garments and branches of trees before Jesus represents joyful obedience and homage to all the thoughts in one's consciousness, which give when we err conscious in one's consciousness, give when an error state of mind is overcome. Let me go over that one more time because I hesitated. The hosannas of the rejoicing multitude and the spreading of their garments and branches of the trees before Jesus represents joyful obedience. They were joyfully doing this. They were welcoming him. And homage that all the thoughts in one's consciousness give, this is what our thoughts give, when an error state is being overcome. So when we're laying down the branches, when we're saying Hosanna, when we're saying this is our transformation. This is going to be the week for this transformation. Now they've got lots of stuff going on everywhere, and our take on it is probably different. Well, definitely different than others. What I hear when I read all this stuff from Charles, and I did all this research on truthunity.net, is what I heard was that it's about our transformation. It's about us finally understanding and choosing. And it's really easy to hear it when you're in the second parade, when you're listening to Jesus, when you're following your instincts. It's really hard to hear it over the bang and the clatter. You're pretty much just following someone else's understanding of what's going on. So our victory comes from understanding and living in the consciousness of spiritual space. In the peaceful state of being, when we connect deeply to spirit, this is where we hear the whispers, where we find the hope, where we learn that not all victories look the same. We must learn to listen to the whispers within, the I am. It's there to offer you hope and guidance. And each victory may not look like what's to be expected, but we are open and willing to receiving the victory either way. Are you open? Are you willing to listen to those whispers and be transformed by it? Charles Gilmore closes with this statement. In the name of Jesus, I affirm, the spirit of him that raises up Jesus dwells in me, and I am made perfect. The spirit of him that raises up Jesus dwells in me, and I am made perfect. So now we're going to go to our meditation. I hit the slide a little early, but the other slides were the same. So Let's just kind of take a deep breath. There's a lot of different words, and we get a lot of different choices. And let go of the outside. Let go of the authoritarianism, what I coulda, shoulda, woulda done. And let's take a breath in and realize that we are the light of God. You can imagine the scene, and at the center of the scene with Jesus, it's peaceful, it's centered, it's resolute, it's joyful, it's kind, it's servanthood. Fully aware of what lay ahead, Jesus knew that the cheers would die down soon. But breathe this in, and we know we are there with him because our heart is there with him, our Christ light. In this moment of transformation, we have the courage to say yes to your calling. Is there something calling you from your heart space? Can you listen to the whispers? Do we have the humility to walk the road of service and not ego? What am I here? Who am I here to serve? The willingness to surrender to something greater. Can you let go of the wheel and know you will be safe? Sometimes we know the way forward is not loud or forceful. It's quiet, intentional, and brave. This is Jesus riding in, quiet, intentional, and brave. And we are Jesus. We are the I am. And sometimes our power is just found in surrender. Can you surrender? Everything else, everything somebody tells you shoulda, coulda, woulda be, all the bandwagons they want you to get on, can you let them go and be free? Let us understand that it is our decision which path we take. The path of love or the path of bondage. We find this understanding in the practice of just listening, going deep inside into the silence. As we listen for the whispers, we gently open our heart. We trust the divine presence that goes before us, the divine presence within us. Remember, not my will, but thy will be done. In me and through me. Take another deep breath in. And exhale with gratitude that you know this, that we affirm this, that we walk in this courage of showing it to other people, in whispers even. And may we, like Christ, trust the journey, step by sacred step. And so it is.